in that last game, it was off the back of that Ziggs really just outputting so much damage that the Camille or Viego can find the damage to finish off kills. They will go towards that first pick Nocturne. Typically a champion they do ban out themselves. They've only played it once so far this split. It was Flandre and it was a loss. When you're giving over champions like the Viego, like the Gwen, like the Zhao that's just been ignored, I'm just so surprised that EDG would opt for this instead.
Got to be a small piece to the larger puzzle here for the Nocturne, because you definitely want those all-ins, you want those engages, you want that forward momentum with the Nocturne. They do get the Zhao Lulu combination locked in already. Obviously the Lulu going to be a little bit different, maybe a little bit of flexibility in that fashion of it, but the Zhao, very, very strong pick for Jiejie. And on the other side of it, LGD get the Gwen, the all coveted late game champion. They also have the Viego, so they got the two newbies. And with the third pick available still to them before we go into this second phase, they really have the pick of the litter here. And I think there's a lot of strong picks on the table. I think that leaving the ADC support roles to the last phase is going to be what we're looking at here, as the Trundle is the lock-in for LGD.
Yeah, interesting enough, we've seen Trundle rise a bit in prominence in recent series. I think top esports are ones who jump to mind, and also being able to flex that pick to top lane, but it is a champion that does bring a lot of early dueling power, especially when you're up against something like this. And so I think having something that doesn't just easily go down or have to concede everything on the map is quite nice. For LGD, I actually like what they have more so far, just having a ton of power picks, right? You have the Gwen and Viego on your side. You now have this potential jungler, assuming that LGD don't also flex it themselves, to enable these two picks. And on the side of EDG, you're setting up champions that really do want to run in and go forward. And when you're running into a Gwen, when you're running into a Trundle, I just don't feel all that good about that, especially the Gwen. Feels like Gwen is quickly becoming Mrs. 300 years, completely outdoing anything we ever saw from the Aphelios. But now with LGD taking away the 80 carries that, you know, the Kog'Maw could go with the Lulu. I would expect Lulu to go mid, but also the Varus. I wonder where EDG specifically will look.
We also see the very heavy focus down towards the bot lane for EDG, at least in their final bans, as they got the Leona and the Nautilus away from Mark. Now the question is, Lyric, what happens when you add 300 years of scissor fighting and you got 200 years of a bunch of guns in the same composition?
I just feel like if this was a team who, you know, maybe had a bit more experience or a bit more time together, this wouldn't be good for EDG, because
we got 500 years worth of experience.
Not only do you have 500 years, but you have two champions who love playing against short-range comps and love playing against champions that run into them. And you know what EDG have? It's a short-range comp and a bunch of champions that are going to run into them. So
who'd have thunk
everything LGD would need to thrive, but we're seeing EDG go towards early game aggression, right? The Kalista, Rakan coming out, so it is going to be the Lulu in mid lane. I feel like whenever we've seen early Lulu picked with the Zhao, you can just already know it's going to go into the hands of the mid laner. Not a huge fan of this for EDG specifically, just for the fact that we have seen Scout's best moments be on the Sylas, the Lee Sin, the LeBlanc. He has played 2 games of this already. They are both wins, but for EDG, we've already hit on their comp right. It wants to go in, and it wants to dive into the backline. You're going to have Scout enabling Jiejie early on to find these early advantages. We want to see them be able to snowball the game. For LGD, they're the ones who have more leeway in terms of having a lot of scaling on their side. They have a lot of early soul lane power coming out. I wouldn't expect too much in the bottom lane when they have that Alistar, but if they can make it through to the mid game scot-free, then I think not only the scaling, but their comp's play pattern just does very well into what EDG have drafted.
And can I just say, you know, maybe a little confidence coming out from EDG, where, you know, Trundle already picked up, still lock in the Kalista. I know it's a little micro outplay, right, with the pillar, but still a lot can be done in those kinds of moments against Kalista. But I still really like the compositions that we're getting. I think LGD have found kind of their flavor of what they were looking for on the red side, while EDG have a clear plan, but it's all coming down to execution, right? We just saw Scout have a huge performance on Lee Sin, now taking a little bit more of a back seat role. We also set up for EDG the whole time where it's like individual outplays, the solo lanes, the bot side of the map, right? Jiejie is the facilitator. He's the one that helps get these solo lanes ahead. Now he's got a lot of the eggs in his basket, as well as the top laner in Flandre. So LGD, as you said, trying to make it to the mid game, trying to get to those team fights, and right now the execution onus is on EDG early on.
The thing I really like about EDG have taken, though, is that they have a lot of early lane priors, right? They have, like, winning matchups. You know the Lulu's going to do well against the Viego. You know Nocturne can push a lot of his lanes. You have a Kalista on the bot lane, for heaven's sake, so going to be extremely aggressive as, ooh, the Hangzhou background, extremely clean.
Yeah, that's so nice as we do hit the rift here. Game number 2 kicking off between EDG and LGD. EDG up 1 game, looking to make it a quick night. LGD not wanting to go quietly. Want to make a name for themselves against the top team in the LPL.
You know, for this being LGD's home arena, I feel like our camera people only showed EDG signs. Where's
no
that
bias.
LGD love?
There's no bias.
I'm sure it's there. It's in their stadium. But we didn't get to see any of those signs. So, you know, unless the signs that were for LGD were only written in Chinese, which is very possible. Me and you would have absolutely no clue if that was the case.
Speaking of no clue, there's a lot of clues maybe happening in top lane right now where Flandre in some trouble against Fearness early on, but a lot of healing going to be done by the two. I like the aggression in the top lane already from both these teams. I do want to check in here. We know, right? We've already talked a lot about it. The junglers are big facilitators. They're big spotlights for both these teams and how they like to get started. But we also put a lot of onus on Jiejie on the Zhao this time around. We have opposite side pathing, at least from both junglers. So maybe looking at different objectives for the two.
I mean, they're even going for the same clear, right? They're going for that solo target clear coming out where it's buff into opposite buff on the other side and then going to take their Grom. So two very similar playstyles coming out, even just from the champions they picked, right, in the Trundle and the Zinza, and what they're able to accomplish early on. Jiejie was hoping to find that gank in top lane. They knew that Fearness was going to be able to push out, has the Ignite, has the E level 1. Flandre got the wave in a position to where they could punish him, but still not able to find it. It seems like maybe we might just trade Scuttle Crabs on opposite sides. And for LGD, I feel like your goal as Shadow should really just be trying to get some deep vision down, trying to get some information on where Jiejie is and prevent him from being able to look for the plays that he's able to make. Get to that mid game that we talked about, and you will be fine. You're probably going to need to look for some pressure ganks in especially mid and top to relieve the pressure coming out for Xiye and Fearness. But point is, get to the mid game just fine. Do that with the help of Shadow. Is Mark going to go in?
That's a lot of damage put down. Kramer not going to be able to hit the long shot there, but does have Shadow right around the corner here. Maybe they want to go for a dive. This would be a little bit early, but they do have the CC combination to make it work, as well as the red gun for Kramer. They want to go for it. This is an execution that needs to come down for LGD as they're looking for the early play. Viper very, very low, but Viper not going to go down just yet. Is he? He's still alive. No, he's not. The kill's going over as we get the trade, and now chaos ensues as Mark trying to get away from the rest of them, and no, Kramer can't either. Flandre gets Mark, and you give a kill over to Jiejie.
And it is an absolute disaster. Kramer having to put the flash in the very end because they just weren't able to finish off Viper without it. He survived on like 5 HP, and then they're just all overextended. The TPs come out, they're able to answer, and it's just a tragedy. We're gonna see how the play starts here. Shadow coming down because they did get that good heavy trade that you were pointing out before. Viper getting chunked out so low, but able to kite this out. Even nice job from Meiko, getting the knockup to stop some of the advance, but Kramer having to flash in, he's going to go down. You already see Trundle, I think he was taken down by Flandre. Mark in an awkward position now, just take 1 Q from the Nocturne, able to finish it off. Everyone's overextended, everyone gets punished. And you even look at Flandre, who committed the TP. He pushed his wave in, and Fearness was in no position to answer. So Flandre's actually still up in farm, despite making the play in bot lane.
And that's what I was just going to point out is like Fearness. I thought it was a good idea, right, not to commit to the overextension that the rest of your team was hard committing onto. but you still don't gain anything up there, right? You were put in a bad position, and now LGD have to suffer the consequences with, you know, it's not a lot, but 1,000 gold at, you know, sub 6 minutes ain't too shabby here for EDG, especially with the early execution that we wanted to highlight for them.
That's the big thing, right? Especially with Jiejie now having his Iron Spike Whip, you're going to have items start coming out. EDG are going to be put in a position where they can start forcing around the map because, sure, you can just chain gank early on, hope to find advantages.
I was about to say,
be fine.
Flandre get a lot of damage from the Ignite burn onto him.
Yeah, but point is, you aren't really in a position where you can force the action you need until things like, you know, Bolt Dragon and Herald are up, and you can pull the team out of their lanes and pull them out of their safe spots to force them to fight you. And right there's the interaction why, you know, you're going to see a lot more Trundle into things like the Xin Zhao. You drop the pillar, you're able to get away. That strong early Xin Zhao dueling not going to be able to be used to its fullest effect.
I'm going to go back to something we saw from last game where EDG were having very strong objective control. They might be looking for it early on this time around as well, but it's going to be the move up of the bot lane for LGD, trying to get over to help Shadow as well. They found the engage onto Mark, though. A lot of damage onto Mark. You might be having hamburgers, and EDG is cooking them up. They're going to follow it up onto Shadow as well. Shadow left out to dry. Jiejie gets another kill.
And it just goes to EDG's idea of the game, right? We were just hitting on that. Sure, as Jiejie or as EDG, you can look for this play style, maybe more in line like an FPX, or, you know, maybe the most extreme would be like a TT and a Xiaopeng of like chain gank or constantly roam your laners, look for these advantages by transferring pressure. But for EDG, I think the way they like to play is wait for neutrals to come up, wait for that, you know, kind of 7-8 minute mark, get on Dragon, get on Herald, and then if you can pull the enemy out of their lanes, out of their set positions to fight you, that's where you can start accruing those gold advantage or pushing the gold advantages that you already have. Yeah. As we see here, Mark, I mean, I'm actually not too sure what he was looking for. I don't think LGD are in any position where they should be looking to contest at this point. You even look at the mini-map, and Aphelios not in a position where he's able to follow, Xiye not in a position where he's able to impact, and you do have the Aphelios, the Viego, and you're up against what I would say is a very low damage composition the later the game goes. So, not a big fan of LGD's decision-making is, oh my god, Kramer.
Kramer just eats it. Almost going down there to the duo of EDG. Not going to do so just yet, but I want to go back to the point you were making about that play, is it just felt like, you know, both teams were right on the cusp of it, but it was EDG who made the decision, right? They were the one that were like, no, we're committing to this, while LGD were trying to still communicate, trying to figure out the way forward. So I think that decisiveness is huge, especially in moments like this, and especially with the composition that EDG have drafted for themselves.
And it's another thing, too, where it's not only the decisiveness that EDG had over LGD in that situation. I think it's just LGD not being able to recognize quickly enough of, you know, maybe not being able to contest that objective, or that there are probably better options for their composition. You're going to assume because they were posturing for the fight that they were probably talking about the angle that they would need to take to win it. But overall, it's just a situation where LGD didn't need to be looking for it in that situation. If there were key summoners down, I think especially on someone like Viper, then maybe you look for it. You try to take advantage of a window where things like that aren't available. As this is actually just Scout. I thought maybe some shenanigans were going to go down, but there are actually no shenanigans. Just Scout TPing back to lane. The most standard thing on this planet.
Can't we just say that Lulu is
after
shenanigans?
After the pace of game one, it's so weird.
It is. We were getting literal just constant chaos the entirety of the early game. Honestly, the entirety of the game for a lot of that, and it was just back and forth. A lot of the roaming from the bot lanes, a lot of just jungle aggression. This time around, a little bit more calculated approach, I feel like, but LGD, I still feel like, are falling into the trap jaws of EDG, right? They are finding the advantages, even though LGD were going for that first dive. They were going for the proactive plays, and it didn't work out for them. Now, again, Shadow looking bot lane, looking to get EDG's, you know, primary duo down.
And they already have Xiye here as well, but Xiye being spotted on a ward means Viper and Meiko now are going to play safe. Even if they don't know that Shadow's here, they're still going to respect just from the possibility of Viego making his way back down. I think that would have been a really hard play to pull off anyway. Viper has both summoners, and Meiko having so much mobility, having the ult from Viper as well to be able to get him to safety. Feels like that would have been a really hard ask for the side of LGD. For LGD, I would love to see them even just look to punish mid lane, try and get Scout's flash. Even if you don't get the kill, you put Xiye in a much better situation of being able to push the wave out, have kill pressure on his enemy laner, and start being able to impact the map more, because you know he's never going to have impact in that 1v1 matchup. As we see here, EDG dropping the Herald down top side. This turret should be gone for LGD, but ooh, Jiejie extremely low.
Oh, might have to pop the Crescent Guard. Dies anyways, as that's a big pickup for Shadow. They don't get the tower just yet. A couple shots from the minions aren't going to do it either. A breeze could knock it down, but not going to do so. Wait, no, is it? Okay, he saved it. Bot lane, we're getting the engage. Is Kramer getting low, but so is Meiko. Moonlight Vigil comes out. AoE aplenty. It's Paranoia is popped by Flandre in the top lane. Can't get around the pillar to the angle he wanted. Now he's in some trouble. Goes back in on the Shadow. Flandre over the wall with the flash. But he's going to walk straight into Xiye. As Flandre, you just can't catch a break, but I love that you're fighting every single person you see. Bot lane, though, Meiko gets the kill on the Kramer. And you wanted action, Lyric. Well, we got it here in the LPL.
And plays happening on both sides. We see LGD being the ones to hover towards top side is, Fearness.
We said can't
Might
stop, won't stop. EDG living up to it here as Fearness bit off a little bit more than he could chew, maybe feeling confident after pushing Flandre out, but that's going to be the kill over to Flandre. And that's 8-2 in favor of EDG.
So to empathize with Fearness in the situation, right? Your bot. Okay, well, I don't get to empathize right now because we get to see a replay. Mazel is. We're going to see
what
EDG
happened.
posturing for the. Yep, EDG were posturing for this dive because 3 members of LGD are top. They know that. They're able to pull off just really nice overall engage coming out from Meiko. The wild growth was used as well. They look for the re-engage. Scout was still full HP because he didn't take any aggro in that situation. And you know what? We come out and we get to go again.
Yep, they realized what was happening, the difference between game 1 and 2, so they need to pick up the pace. And Shadow, talking about picking up the pace, is going to have no pace as he is down, and EDG streaming forward, trying to pick up the rest of the members here, but they will be able to turn back and take the second dragon of the game.
You know, now my point about empathizing with Fearness isn't even relevant anymore. So if Fearness doesn't get any empathy from me or from the fans, I guess. Sorry, Fearness.
Sad.
Just apparently get good. Just kidding. Actually, Fearness has been quite good in a lot of recent series.
He really has.
Not performing. As,
no.
So I'm done. You take it.
You're done. You're going to turn into a play-by-play at the end of the night here, but Viper able to get the kill onto Mark, and EDG, as you said so nicely earlier, are just making plays around the map. And what I love in all of this is Flandre is just like a brawling monster right now. Every single person that steps up to him, they see him, he's fighting. And we got Paranoia with the combo of the rest of EDG. You thought it was Flandre, but it's the entire team. They take mid lane tower.
Yeah, Mazel, and they're going to keep taking mid lane turret. Viper in the bottom side taking that turret as well, as my play-by-play career is starting because we don't get time to analyze anything. A TP is coming out. They are going to take another turret, and LGD can do absolutely nothing.
There's literally nothing LGD can do. They look for something, and it's responded to. EDG have the biggest brains on the map right now.
I mean, they also have the biggest wallets, right? 10K gold lead at 14 minutes. There is, I was going to say, I think a lot of people think back to the days of like Season 3 and they think, man, League of Legends just isn't a snowbally game anymore. And it's like, hey, League might not be as snowbally as it used to be, but League in comparison to most other games still extremely snowbally. And wow.
What?
2,000 gold.
They got all of them
plates.
but one. Every single plate but one.
You know the sad thing is too for Scout that Scout got almost none of them. Scout got almost nothing from any of those plays, but I mean I guess he's fine, right? He has the cheapest items on the Rift, so doesn't need too much. As EDG gonna go for another pick on Fearness.
Fearness in some trouble. The mist not gonna save you today. Jiejie with the combination of Scout gonna drag him down as well. Fearness goes down.
Yeah, Fearness just going to be caught overextended. And when we're at this point in the game, right? Because let's be fair to LGD now. When you're 11K or 10K gold down, there aren't too many options left for you in terms of how to get back in the game. We're gonna see plays like they're doing now, right? Typically, I put them into three categories. You either go for, as you know, paranoia comes out.
Just the paranoia almost killed Shadow. He almost didn't even need Meiko, but he shows up anyways, and Viper gets donated a kill. Meanwhile, they're also making cross-map plays with the Rift Herald going down to Jiejie.
And you know, that's the end of the line, Mazel. No macro
That's
talk.
the end of the
You look
line.
right there. EDG win on both sides of the map. Paranoia comes out. You're winning in bot side. You're
been
getting
all
the top side
game.
Herald for free because you just got that pick onto Gwen. And now for EDG, I feel like we just need to look ahead. We just need to project to the future of when does this team lose again, Mazel? Tell me.
It's a good question to ask. I wish I had the answers, because then I could probably do something with my future site career.
Here's the question. So, right, today they play LGD, but they play RNG this week. We're going to get a replay, Mazel, but this replay, we can come back to this replay on a different day. They play RNG on Sunday, Mazel. Can RNG do it? Can EDG lose to RNG? Is that possible?
They need to. Honestly, RNG need to win that one.
Bias casting, Mazel? Here in the LPL?
You know, I mean, no, not at all. But I'm just saying, if RNG want to live up to any of their namesake right now in this season, they've got to win against EDG. But we got to get to that one later, because we still got EDG performing so well in this game. And this is the kind of performance that I wanted to see. We talked about, you know, wanting to see that execution come out from EDG. We were a little questioning in the draft. We were a little questionable about the composition itself, but they have shown through here.
We had Jensen Go, who used to coach in. Oh, okay. Well, Engage comes out. They're already bursted down, Mazel.
They aren't even there. Oh my God! They lose their tower. They're still 5 members strong. Look at the turtle coming out from EDG, as this is the rest of LGD getting eviscerated from the map. And that's the inhib in mid lane going down. They've also got minions in the top lane. They can choose wherever they would like to go.
I'm just saying, force the end, EDG.
Yeah,
you can do it.
Honestly,
push for the Nexus.
Just go for it. Full send, if you will, here in the LPL. First Nexus tower goes down. Second Nexus tower is down, and EDG are just gonna stream into the base of LGD. They're gonna take the Nexus eventually, but padding the stats along the way. Down the yellow brick road, EDG go, as the top team in the LPL continues to cement themselves.
And that one was just absolute destruction coming out from EDG. You hit the nail on the head that we talked about wanting to see more, or what we could see coming into the second game. And yeah, I feel like when you're a top caliber team and you go into a game like game 1 and you have a bit of a fun game that kind of devolves halfway through the game, it's a lot easier to just be able to come into game 2, realize, hey, a lot of these mistakes didn't need to happen. A lot of this autopiloting could have been avoided. We see that happen here. LGD making some early mistakes. It got punished by EDG. And then this game, even more than game 1, once the action started, it never stopped.
It just did it. Somebody finally found the power button for what was happening in that game. They plugged in the right cord. It all turned on and did not stop, as you said, which was absolutely crazy, especially coming off that first game where it was non-stop action. We were kind of like, okay, this is a new world. What are we doing here? What's happening? And then nope, all right, say one. Somebody just painted over it with like a black paintbrush or something. But it was an incredible performance from EDG, especially in the second game. And for LGD, you know, you just got to look forward, as you were saying in the game. You've got to try to figure out what works best, the pieces that fit, the styles that fit, and especially still looking for that synergy to be developed, that cohesion for this squad.
I mean, for LGD, there wasn't a lot of key learnings today or key takeaways, because you faced EDG EDG now, I think off of this are going to be 20 wins and 3 losses in the LPL. By far the best game score. For reference, Rare Adam, who are in second, are 15-7. So it's not even close. I feel like EDG are just too good in so many areas.
Yeah.
When especially for LGD, I feel like one of your biggest problems is like the quality of your laners compared to like our top 3 or 4 teams. And then you see EDG come in. It's just nothing that can really be extrapolated from this series. For LGD next, you get a bit of a reprieve. You're going to face TT and then WE, so maybe more takeaways then. But definitely got to go back to the drawing board. For EDG, though, I mean, they're still just such a strong team that can play and draft so many different styles. I feel like that's the scariest thing about them is they feel comfortable when Scout doesn't have agency, despite him looking most comfortable with it. Their bottom lane has probably played every different style under the sun. They can play utility, they can play hyper carry, they can play team fight, they can play all in. They just got it all. And Jiejie, I think, is in a very stable meta for him. He can kind of flex between both styles of, hey, I can gank, I can play things like the Volley Bear, I can pull out the Zinzaos of the world, or I can play the Dianas and can farm and scale up. And that really just leaves Flandre, who, with the rest of the town on your team, you're allowed to be more of that wild card or that X factor to where in games where you pop off, like he did in this game, it looks great. In games you don't pop off, it doesn't matter because you have so many other people who can cover those holes in other games.
18 minutes and 22 seconds. That's a short one for sure. Realize it. That is an absolutely short game, true speed run. The thing for me that sticks out here, we've harped on the greatness of a lot of these players from the side of EDG, but the fact that that Scout can do it both and do it both while looking so damn good. He hard carried game number 1 on that Lee Sin. He was finding solo kills. He was making team fights just look like Swiss cheese with his Dragon Rage kicks. And then to come in as a supportive role in game number 2 and lift up the team with his Lulu play, and especially being able to TP into the bot lane down there for that dive and completely change things around. I just think it's so incredible when you see a player like this be able to shine in both kinds of moments.
And that's just the story of Scout, I think, his whole career, where he's always been a player who has had like a variety of different styles he's been able to pull out. Remember, this was a guy who, I mean, originally was known and famous because he was the understudy under Faker back on SKD, came into EDG, had his whole career here and all of his pop-off moments. And he's a player I think most people have always had in that, I'd say top 5 to top 7 of LPL, depending on the splits, sometimes even being as high as just consistently top 2. But right now, definitely a player a lot of us appreciate. And for EDG, we're just waiting for more tests. I actually said this on the last hit, which we filmed yesterday with Ox as our guest, that to me, EDG, I think, are the best team across the board in like macro, laning, vision control, etc. But they're not necessarily the best or perfect in each one of those areas. So a specialized team maybe in one can beat them. A team like Top Esports, right, who actually have stronger laning prowess in them and are more of this brawly skirmish heavy team. But I think any more standardized team are going to struggle against EDG. You're really gonna have to look for those teams that really all in or index in one area. The Top Esports, the RNGs with their side lane control in spring, to be a team that can maybe step up and take them down. But I don't know any team that looks like they're informed to do it again, other than, TES, who did just pick up that 2-0 against them.
Yeah, and that's why I think that those niche, avenues are really important. You're facing a team like EDG who just looks so well-rounded across the board. But then you see those slight hiccups, those slight moments, man, if I could just get in there, I could definitely do some damage. I could pull something away from this team who looks so dominant. And so just trying to search for that competition, and honestly, EDG riding a lot of highs throughout this season so far, but still having some ways to go, right? And having taken their first loss, I feel like it does give them some more momentum going forward, especially when you have clean wins like this. So it's up to the rest of the board to really make something happen against this team.
Oh, it definitely is. And I mean, we're just probably not going to see that anytime soon, right? EDG just not having too much competition right now. I feel like the other big thing for EDG, just looking forward towards something like playoffs, because sure, we don't have like lock-ins and it might be too early for talk like playoffs right now, but I feel like the other thing a team like EDG is just hoping and praying for is no big meta shifts to happen.
Yeah.
It's something that we've seen, I think Riot has done a lot better of a job of during the split, that they've tended to like stay away from big meta shifts, so I think EDG should be fine, but that has definitely been something that can cripple a team in the past, is a big meta shift either during a tournament or before a tournament. I think Season 5 Worlds being a big one that stands out in a lot of people's mind, the Mordekaisers, the Dariuses, but yeah, I think barring any crazy circumstances like that, EDG just looked like such a hard team to bet against to not get one of those world slots. Who knows if they win? I feel like betting that is way too hard to predict, but it truly doesn't seem like 3 other teams will be able to step up and take this team down in best of 5s.
Yeah.
Because that's even harder.
And a key to winning those best of 5s is going to be this bot lane, and we gotta maybe give a little bit more love to Viper and Meiko down there, because we talked a little bit about it in our A block when we were talking about both these teams. We were talking specifically about EDG, how they like to set up, and maybe one of the silent but deadly members of EDG is Meiko, who's had such good performances across this split, but as well as in the past. And the combination of him with our MVP of this last match in Jiejie has been a force to be reckoned with for EDG.
Yeah. Definitely, Jiejie coming out and having good games. I think especially recently, in the first few weeks, Jiejie was definitely more of like a placeholder to where he was doing fine, right? I don't think anyone's ever considered Jiejie bad, but definitely not one of the top junglers. I feel like in the recent series is where we've actually seen Jiejie be more of a standout performer on EDG and maybe coming back into making more of a name for himself. I think in the early game this time around, definitely having solid performances. We saw counter ganks come out pretty much all around the map for him early on. He was linking up with Scout. We saw these plays around the bot side, punishing the over-aggression from LGD. And right, that's just like the story of the series is like, well, punishing the mistakes from LGD, but hey, they were in position to do so. Jiejie in this circumstance was the one who was able to do it. And from these early moments, right, LGD were just never able to come back, and EDG are a team who are able to push games like this forward.
Yeah.
And it's something even Dwinby said in a recent interview, right? With Dwinby coming out and saying the scariest, one of the scariest things about EDG is the fact that if they get a lead, they're going to be able to close it out. Sure, I guess maybe you can argue that after Game 1's performance, but they still got the win.
They still got the dub, all right? They still got the dub.
Yeah, so statistically, it still holds up, and we saw that here. Once EDG get an inch, they're going to be able to just take everything.
Yeah, there's no holding back the raging torrent that is EDG when they have a lead, and especially when they pick those early base compositions and find those advantages and punish those mistakes early on. And I know we've harped a lot about EDG and about the strengths that we've seen, but they have been so strong throughout the summer split so far. Got to keep it up, though, as they do take that 2-0 victory over LGD. We got more games to look forward to, though, Lyric, as we got to take a little break. But on the other side of it, we're going to have Rare Adam taking on FPX. You're not going to want to miss it.